Fight over President Trump's tariffs will likely make it to the Supreme Court. That's because a federal appeals court ruled many of the levies are illegal. However, the court did not immediately block them. For more on this, let's go to Akin Oyedele, who joins us. He's a deputy editor of newsletter at the Business Insider. Akin, so what could the financial impact be here if the United States in the Supreme Court, if it goes to the Supreme Court and it upholds that decision that's already been made, that Trump's tariffs are illegal?
Thanks for having me, Jerica. So we're seeing a little bit of market reaction today with bond yields selling off and the stock market also, bond yields are rising, which means bonds are selling off and the market itself is lower, particularly tech stocks. And the worry slash the impact is really twofold. One is that if the Supreme Court upholds this ruling, the government loses the tariff revenue that it's already been collecting. And the second thing is that there's a prospect that the government has to repay back some of the revenue that it's collected. And so both things are not good. They would worsen an already tricky financial situation that the U.S. government is in. We know that the debt is at a historically high level, and losing out on this tariff revenue would put a further dent into that. And so if the ruling is upheld, then those are some of the things that investors worry could happen, and markets are kind of pricing in a little bit of the prospect of that. But obviously that remains to be seen if it will actually be upheld by the court.
I want to talk a little bit more about the economy here. The U.S. workforce lost more than 1.2 million immigrants from January through July, according to a report by the Pew Research Center. So what effect might we see from this in relation to the economy?
So what could happen and what's already happening is that the overall supply of labor to the economy is slowing and is low, essentially. And we're in a pretty unusual situation where employers aren't hiring like they used to. We've only created about 35,000 jobs on average over the last 3 months. And now we're seeing the supply of labor also slowing. And it's rare to see both things happening at the same time. That hasn't hit the unemployment rate significantly yet, but the worries that it could. And in Fed Chair Jerome Powell's most recent remarks at Jackson Hole, he flagged that that's a risk that they're watching closely. We'll get the next jobs report on Friday for July. But the risk is that we could see unemployment tick up, and that's because there just aren't enough people to hire, and there also is a slowdown in the demand of workers. Again, that's not happening yet, but that's the risk that the Fed and everyone else should keep an eye on, is the unemployment rate.
We absolutely will. Akin Oyedele, thank you so much.